It can fix like 10 things.
And it honestly, oh yeah, people just, so
It's a 10 for 1 special. Auditory feedback. Now, this isn't squeezing. Like, I'm pushing against those things. But if I let off just a little bit, boom, and then back to it. So that's so important. That's only one little piece, though. Like, this smart grip is going to, like...
That just ensures the connection. But then...
where are you pushing here? Let the audience know.
You know, I'm pushing with the knuckle pads. We start with the pinky. It goes all the way here to in between the index finger and the thumb.
On the butt end of the club. Love it. They can't.
Their grip sucks. They're, like, not doing... Like, they're not keeping it
Lobster
together.
claws.
It's like...
His claws. Understand that the golf swing is 90% hands and arms. It used to be, like back in the 20s and 30s with Harry Vardon and Henry Cotton and all these guys, they were saying that it was 90% hands and arms. Where did that get lost? Like, why? Why did we lose that? We are live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Cause and Effect podcast, where we introduce the cause and effect relationships that exist in golf in relation to the hand to handle to club relationship. Episode 19. I screwed up last time. I said that episode 18 was 17. I like went through them like, dang it. We took like 1 week off and I completely forgot. So, episode 19, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 19. It was a long day. We just got done shooting at the studio. Shot some really good content. Stay on the lookout for that this week. Walked everybody through like the claws, like what they are. Talked about how we're trying to create like the ultimate connection to the golf club.
Right, with getting the extension. Yeah,
that's the big thing. We want people to understand, like, get your stretch of your hands away from your body, get the curls, get the proper, like, just like claws, and then create the connection to the club. So that's going to be a really good video. I'm super excited for that because we really haven't like walked people through it. We've talked about it on the podcast and it's just kind of hard to see. Like, so that's going to be a good one.
We emphasized the knuckle pad activation today more so than we have, I think, in any other video.
Because that's like the key,
when you get finger extension, it's like that's really what it's allowing you to do is you're being able to push with your knuckle pads like away.
Correct.
Like, you know,
right.
In a sense, and the fingers work back of that.
Right. Remember, we got to show off, we'll have to show off that training aid that I had where it was like the thing that wrapped around my wrist and pulled the fingers back. We're going to do something with it.
Like, yeah, for our viewers, like, this is, you know, just another good, you know, way to understand or like to view like what we're trying to explain. So like, we can't really break it down much easier than this. Like,
it's for what just such a good visual. Like, it's that visual that we always use, and we talk about this every podcast. But it's the visual of the knuckle pads. If you imagine, like, your knuckle pads are like a certain distance away. It's almost like if you drew like a line right here, and that's a certain distance from like your sternum. Your job in the takeaway in creating the claws in general is to push those knuckle pads past that point, but get your fingers to stay basically like at that starting point. Right. So it's like you want your fingers to stay like at that line, but your knuckle pads to push away from that line. I think that's like a good visual. Yeah. And that's what like I realized too when we were shooting content. I'm like, that's really what we're trying to get people to do. And we did the backpack.
The backpack's crazy, but like I was saying, that's, you know, it's really going to help to showcase like the tautness and the rubber band effect.
That's the big thing. Like, that's what nobody's talking about enough. I see all these coaches online, and yes, we rant about this a lot, but it needs to be fixed. Like, golf instruction's broken. We're not just doing this podcast and doing all this content for giggles. Like, we're here to make a difference. We need this needs to be fixed. Like, it's unacceptable. And it's really just understanding. Like, when I see the content, coaches are saying when you start the club back. And we're going to talk about this a lot in our like hot take segment. But they're saying that the hands don't do anything when you're taking the club back and it's just the shoulders.
Yeah, that's like,
woof. We're going to talk about that in hot takes coming up. But man, I'm so sick of that.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
It just confuses my students and the people that we're trying to help. And it's not good advice. Like,
even if they were to say that the grip just is maintained itself in like form and just move straight back, that's one thing, but they don't even explain that.
Right.
So it's like if you say the hands don't do anything, then it's like, oh, okay. So
they're just
I put my hands on here and then it's like I got my grip and then whatever grip pressure you have, and then let's just see what happens when you take it back and you try to use the body and don't use your hands.
Your lobster claws are surfing on the wave.
And then too, I mean, on top of that, it's like
that visual.
If you're trying to lag the golf club, like, you know, and then release it like without technically any hands, you don't, where do you activate them at any point?
Yeah, it's like,
in that idea? Or like,
your lobster claws are surfing the wave.
You look like an octopus swinging like a cylinder, like,
exactly.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
So it's just not effective. Like you have to create the proper connection to the handle, and then you have to understand how to really increase those pressures. I like what you said today in the video where you said you start at like 10% in terms of like your tautness and like your connection to the handle
with the grip,
but then you're just like
swings.
Cranking that up, like crank it, winding it, winding it, winding it, winding it, whoosh, unwinding it. That was cool. I really liked that because that's the key, right?
Right. Like when you get your grip, that connection between your hands and arms, like basically when you get your claws, then you lock your claws and your arms together and then to the body. One thing I used to do is I would get my swing triangle, like arms out in front, and get my golf club here, and you
can grab your club.
Yeah, that's true. So I would put the club up like this, and I would get my elbows like together as much as I could, like this underneath, but I would bring my arms down like on top of my pecs, instead of trying to grip like the sides of my body, and it would really help. So that way in my backswing, I had freedom because I already had the push pressure in the claws, right? So then once I like locked my arms and pushed, it was like I came into impact, I had no problem. Then I just like pushed through impact, kept the locked arms, and that swing triangle was easier to maintain because I had it so well created at setup. All I had to do was maintain it.
That's where all the attention and energy goes. Like when you look at pros and
that's what they're doing. Yeah,
that's what they're doing. I mean, we watched the match a lot this weekend. God, that was bad. I mean, it was, so I saw it to JT like, for carrying that thing, but my gosh, like that was not good golf. Like I get it, Tiger, he gets a pass because he's old and his body's kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
But man, I was not impressed. Like Rory and Spieth shanked it, and I saw Daniel Rappaport from Foreplay gave it a 9 out of 10. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, were you watching the same thing?
Oh,
like,
man.
We watched it because it's our job and we have to watch
and I like
it,
the players. I mean, I do, but it's just like, I was pretty like, man,
I'm gonna drink and like get them drunk or something. Like, God, we got to get some banter, like some trash talk. It's like Rory said maybe 5 words, and I think they were all about
there was more of an
charity.
interview, and questions like and stuff. So I mean, I get it, but it was more about like I wanted to see them try to like play a little bit more too, like get a little more serious. You know
what would have been really good if they rode in the same cart.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Why didn't they ride in the same
cart?
Not
to have all 4 of them linked up on the same mic, even though I know like they're trying to do this like live stuff.
And
but like it should have been like I don't know. Should have kept it more like separated, I think, like between the 2 teams.
Put them in the same cart. Yeah. Give them some fireball.
Right.
Let's get some trash talk.
Let's get something going at least. Yeah, yeah. Excitement wise.
Throw like $1,000 down on the ground before you get to the tee box. Like, come on.
Well, like I said, if it was just watching 4 golfers, like, and I was going to watch like a match play event, like just from that standpoint of the golf that was played, I would have, it's like that was one of the most boring. Like,
I watched Spieth like blade a chip.
His
Rory,
bladed
like,
punch off the pine straw was pretty impressive on the one hole. I think it was his best shot he hit when he stuck it on that back.
That was a good shot.
Well, he said he purposely hit it
thin. Right. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But
he got really steep on that and hit down on it hard. But but hey, whatever. It's golf.
Exactly.
It's December and it's golf, so it's like
we'll
I guess
say it was dark out, so we'll give them that.
That was cool. I did like that.
It was cool though. Yeah,
I liked that it was under the lights. I wish they would do more kind of like cool exhibitions like that, but I don't know, man. Maybe Liv can do like some cool like outdoor golf tournaments like that or something. Yeah, because those are cool. Like I liked watching golf like that. But JT, I'm really impressed with his swing. Like he just does a really good job with everything that we talk about. Because I think JT does a really good job of just like pushing to start the swing.
He does.
Like,
that's why he lowers so much. Like you see it in this first move, right? Like you can see everything going down.
Lead, shoulder, chest, everything's getting probably like 2 or 3 inches closer to the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's basically maintaining that pressure from the top down and out, in a sense, back down like towards the ground as his, feet do what they do and his legs go from flexion extension.
Right.
So he lifts up, but the downward pressure allows him to stay consistently like stable through impact with maintain a, straight lead arm, keeping his grip together. Cause that is one thing. If you look at him at impact
it's
and
so
post,
good.
like it's perfectly maintained.
Yeah.
Like,
and he is like a bit of a neutral grip. So he breaks down like a little bit. If he had a stronger grip, he'd be even more locked with that lead arm. And he'd be even, but
I think that would be almost too much gear effect for his lower body movement, to be honest.
His lower body would, probably like
he might hit the ball even further for a while, but it would tear his lead side up.
Yeah, he's already lessened like quite a bit with his lower body movements and things. It looks
Except
like he's
for that
tightened
one
everything
swing.
up.
Do you see that one he really bombed?
Yeah, where he lifted his foot.
Yeah, he lifted his left heel at the top, like big time.
Just so he can like plant it harder.
His feet,
and just like
he did like the Kyle Berkshire thing with like the toe up, toe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the weight move. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the point of that?
It's
like,
momentum.
Okay, got it.
It's getting the momentum right.
Got it.
So it's like you're building it from heel to toe in a sense, and like left to right, and then like you harness that energy and basically channel it to through the club to the top, and then when you get that same channel from the ground up, like you're gonna maintain it in that sequence too.
Oh, right,
and then
right.
it just like catapults it a little bit.
Right.
It's like boost times like 2 or 3.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Throw a little nitrous on it.
right. Yeah.
So when you see the guys like Berkshire and DeChambeau and all that, where they're working on trying to speed up their takeaway, that's kind of like, do you like that for speed? Because I don't know, like we're like kind of proponents of like, I'm saying like where they speed up the takeaway and try to get the club moving really quick.
Yeah, to let the club head basically like its force once it like they stop basically or slow down towards the top, it'll naturally load more for them.
Oh, so that's like what Fitzpatrick does because he's like trying to get more speed, like Matthew Fitzpatrick. He does like a lot of that to create speed.
Right. It's almost like the reverse lag drill where like you reverse your fingers back this way and then like go forward. But with the handle forward, so it'd be like, take the club like this back and then in the downswing, reverse it this way. It creates maximum speed, actually, it does. But it's a little bit difficult to understand how to control that.
Why is that? Why do you think it's difficult?
It's like with Gary Woodland or
like the float loading kind of thing.
Well, it's like, you're like basically like, you're just not like push pulling at all, or you're pushing, but you're keeping max ulnar in the takeaway and stretching that. And then in the transition, you're maximizing your increase with the push pull and then holding that. And then coming through, you're basically trying to punch, which is what they both do when they release.
So basically what I think, based on what you just said there, is that by getting more of that ulnar feeling, you're almost like creating more of a snap to get more of that punch. So
the idea though is that like, so especially with like Gary Woodland can hit a draw. I mean, for sure, obviously. But the idea is that typically he'll hit a fade because it makes sense. Because if you're going into radial that much, if you just get your alignment open and then you push down your toe line, trail arm stays bent, trail arm goes from bent to straight, but you're just pushing equally with both arms, like you're gonna hit that perfect little baby fade. Like the butter cut,
right?
And it's very consistent. So
which is kind of like
exactly what they both do, though.
Right.
Kirk-Rack, same thing. He hits like that little little butter cut.
Yeah,
and it makes sense with the way that they do it. So, but I think that to get like the full gear effect of the club, having a little bit more of the push pull earlier in the backswing is a little easier than to get like a little bit more of a consistent refire, re-kick move, control a little bit more here, like a little more, and just hang on here, which doesn't require effort really. Yeah. And then it's just more consistent.
The chance of your car crashing like at impact isn't like as prevalent if you're getting a better takeaway.
Everything's more of a variable timing, everything if you are again going with that kind of an increase, kind of thing. Which I think is probably why when you look in their careers, like they're both really good golfers and stuff, but they kind of have like highs and lows. You know what I mean?
That's very true.
So I think it's,
right. PNC week this week, not last week. Sorry about that. I was like, it's so funny. I was like editing the podcast or whatever. I'm like, I feel like I messed something up in this. And I looked, I'm like, oh no, PNC's next week. But oh well, we're just trying to get people excited for the PNC week, I guess.
There you go.
But now it's PNC week. So happy PNC week. Yep. We're going to see a lot of Charlie and Tiger this week. I'm sure that's all they'll be showing. They won't even be showing like.
I think John Daly and his son's going to win.
Oh, really? They won last year.
That's who I picked too. Yeah.
Yeah. But we've seen a lot of Charlie. We just looked at his swing. We talked a little bit about this last week. We didn't really like that he was doing like the weaker lead hand grip because we felt like it was just harder for him to stay in tilt and just kind of control his swing and. We still think that. Right. And nothing's changed with that. Like, that swing looked good, though. Like, he was, like, I mean, really good.
I would say it's like, I called it a classic, perfect kind of swing.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at Tiger Woods.
Like a Sam Snead.
Like, when Tiger had his perfect swing, like, I would actually say it's after, like, he had his, like, real peak in 2005. But shortly after, like when he started getting his trail shoulder going higher up to his finish,
like
this swing looks exactly like that.
Like 2006, 2007, when
Yep.
he was like hitting all those really nice like stingers, and when he played Hoy Lake with just the iron and didn't really hit driver the whole time. But yeah, you can see a lot with that trail shoulder really staying on top at impact and finishing high. Like, man, we like to see typically like a little more draining in the water.
Yeah, a little more tilt.
There wasn't a lot of that with Charlie, but
right. Well, I mean, he has a great tilt from the top with his increase move. He does a great job with his extension, like his pushing away against the handle to the top. Like he has a lock trail arm, perfect, just like we talk about.
Yeah,
he bends it perfectly.
Pushing,
yep, and he loads a little bit like as he starts the takeaway. Imagine, like we talked earlier today about a video where we don't initiate conscious turn in the backswing, or I mean in the takeaway.
Correct.
So Charlie doesn't turn at all either. Basically what he does as he stretches his triangle straight back and like stretches everything out like this, he allows that pressure and weight to slide his trail knee and his lead knee just a little bit. I'd say it's like maybe an inch to the right, but his hip turn goes towards the target. So
kind of like a Sergio kind of thing.
So that's how he allows, like he can support the lock trail arm to the top, keep himself in tilt, but his hips are already going towards target. But basically, because the knees had slid just a little bit, there's going to be a little bit more of that slide back. And then he, like, a lot of like that clears back with the lead leg, perfect, post, good impact, great post. I mean, he does a great job with his claws.
He's pushing.
I just
really
think if
good.
he just didn't turn so much all the way to his full finish, like he just doesn't have to do that.
So much.
Like stick the finish out in front of you more, like for a majority of shots at least.
Right.
Like your control shots and stuff.
Right.
And even have like maybe a stock punch driver swing that goes like, for him, maybe like 240 or 260 or whatever. Yeah. But like, I don't know. It's like, you don't have to go always full around,
Man, I don't know. I feel like everybody just gets that triangle and they're just like, all right, I'm just going to like use my body and just try to keep that triangle together.
They get all the levers back. They get all the legs right. They get all the torque to pre and back right? They keep connection to the finish really well for the most part. But the amount that they're actually rotating the torso, there is always like a disruption for the most part at some point here as the club is like working its way back around, to its finish.
With the gear effect.
With keeping the connection relative to like the gear effect.
Oh, okay, got it.
And how the body's moving because it's all correlated, right?
Right.
So
you're just adding more variables.
That's why that's why I believe so much in sticking the finish. And I'm telling you, like, whenever I taught people this, like I had such good success, like on the driving range with a student, I'd be like, okay, there's a target, right? It's like when you stick the finish, try to leave the club head like 10 degrees to the right of that target. And like, you're going to hit the ball. You're going to try to point it there. And then you're going to bring it back down, even if it doesn't stop there. And we're both going to look to see if you're pointing there.
We're going to grade you based on that.
Correct. And I'm telling you, like 9 times out of 10, they would try to do that and the ball would start right where their club face like was pointing and it would end up right on the target. And they're just like, I'm like, this is how you play golf. But but that's the idea though,
It's just like we always talk about, you have to give your claws like a finish line. Like, and if you have like an idea of where you're trying to get your claws, then you're going to keep your grip together better.
Right.
Because you're trying to, like, you have a kind of intention in the swing of where you're trying to stop your claws.
One of the most important things is though, it's after impact when you think about that, which a lot of people believe, whatever happens after impacts, or impact doesn't matter. right. But honestly, like it's huge because there's a thing called like phantom thought. It's like basically the more you understand the follow through and you know where the destination is, the easier it is to understand how to get to that point.
Correct.
So if you're just trying to like learn going from like here back and then trying to figure out, okay, how do I keep this? But if you really don't know exactly where this like point is, or if you know of maybe one point of the club's supposed to be like here, right? And then what after that happens, like, I don't know. But like in a sense, it's like, no, that's not it. Like you got to know the whole way. But like understand over here exactly where it's supposed to be. Then we can again get back here easily. And that's how you learn how to hit the ball with the pause, by the way.
Right, exactly.
You really can't hit the ball from a hard pause at the top if you don't know where you're trying to leave the club.
Well, that's why I really like when we talked about the post-impact a lot, when we went through that kind of period last year where we were really diving into the post-impact and like, we're going to create some more content on that. We have to because post-impact's the key. But if we talk about like that, like Berkshire thing where you're like kind of like moving the feet and trying to get the momentum.
Yeah.
It's if you went to that like post-impact position and then like wound it from there, then that would be like
that's what they
the
do.
Ultimate thing.
That's what they do sometimes.
Like
they'll take it forward first with the arms and then they go back.
Right. Yeah, when they're doing like their training and stuff. And...
No, in competition, I've seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember who it was exactly, but I've seen a couple guys. It was a few years ago.
It makes sense, though.
But yeah, it's like building momentum.
Yeah, especially like if you could start there and then like brace and then just like stick it at that spot that you started at, man, that is like the ultimate. Because if you can like build a brace in that wall, like we talked about with like that drill where we did a lead hand only and trail arm under, you're just like creating like more of that like rubber band effect.
Right.
Yeah. But that's a big thing. And we're going to see, like I said, a lot of Charlie, a lot of Tiger. Tiger, I feel bad for him because his trail foot is like all messed up from his surgeries and his accident that he had. And you could see it, like he's just not able to use his lower body really at all. But his claws are still good, and that's why he has some really good shots at the match. But we'll see him this weekend. I'm just excited to watch Tiger and Charlie. I hope it'll be better than the match.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
A little bit more like competition, and it'll be fun. I just like watching Charlie because I don't know, anytime you get to watch like the heir apparent to the to the goat,
right? The goat,
it makes it cool. So yeah, it'd be cool. A couple things we want people to look for when they're watching this week, though, is look for that hook with that trail index finger with Charlie. Like, and when with all golfers, like you'll see it with John Daly, you'll see it with his son.
You'll have it a little bit more separated.
Tiger doesn't go as far down as Charlie. I noticed Charlie, when I studied his swing and did the analysis I did, he hooks it down a lot. And that's important because it's what allows him to feel that like stability at the top and feel his increase and everything. And we love the hook.
Yes. Yeah. I always used to put mine right up next to my middle finger.
I love it.
I always curled it right up there. And then like with my grip, if I did that, my trail index knuckle would be just still ever so slightly below my tip of my trail thumb.
And we talked about that in the video today. Yeah, we went really in depth on that. And we talk about like that. with that trail index finger, the benefits of that are again what? Like we're trying to get like the push pull. Like
like when you're stretching and everything, like if your fingers in the hand, like you can see like again, get full extension, get the curl like this. Like if I push back, it's like that's going to lock my arm, right? Like if I'm just kind of like hanging out, right? Let's say my hands don't do anything, and it's just like, this is not the same as like this. You know what I mean? So
there's gotta be some purpose to it,
right? So that's a big thing, and then also like it's a notch. So when the golf club gets levered back like this with the trail hand,
there's a lot of torque there.
Yeah, so it's like if I have it, in my fingers like this, there we go. Now I have the notch to support the lever, so when I lag it I can keep it in there, and then when it gets released, right, it's gonna have security still, because right here it's giving you the it's the security for the tip of the club right out here, like it's relative to that, it's the lowest point on the club relative with the hands, right?
Because it's not like you're just letting it unwind and letting it roll.
It's like we've talked about lead thumb, right? It's over here at the 230 for neutral strong. Levers back like this, same direction as the trail index pinch, right? And thumb pinch.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then from there, the lead thumb is snapping back out as we're keeping the extension, of course.
Always.
And then, it's going to unhinge. There's the impact.
It'll kind of straighten a little bit.
It's flat.
Like
it's still
flat.
cup, though.
Still cup.
But it's flat. It's flat, right?
Correct.
And then it's going to, release. But the trail hand, though, again, with these two reference points right here, right?
Yes.
These are all we need.
That's the key.
That's it. It's like they're levered back in the same way. They lag back, and then they are released, forward in the same manner. But the usage of what's going on is a little bit different.
Man, if people can just really understand like how to get, like if you take that like hook of that lead hand and the hook of the trail hand and you just get them like matched up and you understand like they have to be matching.
Right.
You match those up. I mean, you can really understand like how
you can feel all the relationships between the hands, the handle, and the face, which is this whole podcast all the time.
Exactly.
But this is what we're trying to explain, though. Yeah, is it's like once you get it in these pressure points and everything, it's like when you go back, you can really feel like every point of what's going on between the hands themselves, the handle, and the face. And once you understand enough of seeing it like on video of like what your swing actually looks like doing that too, it's like, oh, okay, everything makes a lot more sense.
That's what JT does better than any of those guys we watched at the match, which is crazy because I mean we're comparing him to like Tiger Woods and stuff, but I just feel like
Tiger's just gotten into a little bit more closer to the ball and a little bit more alternate setup and a little bit more neutral with his grip. So I think that
he's got this. So this is what this runs this way.
I just feel like, I mean, he might be going weaker or keeping the weak because when he uses his right side, brace. He's not trying to like hold back with the right side at all. So maybe that's it.
Yeah,
I would just open up my alignment though, or flare my lead toe or something. I don't know. Do something like different, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
who knows?
I don't know how much he's going to really play this year. Like, to be honest, or this upcoming year, because I mean, he can't walk right now. Like, he only can take a cart.
Hard.
So it's like, that's tough.
The fact he's even probably playing is.
Yeah, I think he's only playing because he gets a cart. But he can't get a cart when he's on the PGA Tour. So but look for that hook with the trailing index finger. It's so important. It's not being talked about enough in golf. So we're gonna keep talking about it, and we're gonna keep.
They're all hooks, by the way. Like when you look at it, your 4 fingers are hooks.
Yeah.
There's 4 hooks and a pinch, which creates a notch between your thumbs and your hooks.
And
that's like, again, the completion of your claws to the club. So
and that's what allows you to create that clamp of both claws.
So it is literally like, these are clamps. It's like once they go on, it's like,
in the club,
but they don't curl like this. Again, they stay like this, and then you just curl and keep the isolation. So again, it's just like this and then like that.
Correct. It's like when you're constructing your cage of your bird cage, you got the lead side of the cage, and then it's almost like if the lead side of the cage had like little like connectors, and if you get your trail hand like connected, then it's like boom, that's like the perfect cage. You can't have like one side of the cage perfect structure and the other side like caved in, because then the bird's like like really crunched. So we're just going to keep talking a lot about these hooks and the importance of them. And the key is you just have to really understand, for everybody at home, you have to understand how your fingers are working relative to your palms. That's why we create the claws. That's why we're pushing with those knuckle pads, because we're trying to really create that tautness. So when we get those hooks pulled away from those kind of starting points, you can really feel how that club is kind of hinging to the top properly, lagging, and releasing. Understand that these and how the fingers are working relative to the palm is the key, because it's really like it's what every tour player is doing, whether or not they're initiating it right off the bat or they're doing it a little later. They're all here at pre-impact and they're all here at impact, and that's why they're so good. So plain and simple.
There you
go. So let's talk about some seated swing solutions. We kind of talked about that a little bit in the last episode. That's going to be a segment that was recurring every week.
Yeah.
Seated swing solutions, everybody. I was like, wait, where'd Jonathan go? Got my headphones on. I'm like, whoa, I wasn't looking for a second. So yeah, we're going to just give you a couple more things to work on at home. If you don't have the ability to go to the range, or if you just want to sit in front of your TV and work on your golf swing, like most people.
Exactly, right.
They don't have the time to go to the range or want to go to the range.
Sure.
So yeah, let's do it. Seated swing solutions, with a club or without a club, or
I'll go without the club for now.
Okay, cool. And yeah, if you don't have a club, then just use like a cylinder, or like a
like
a ruler like you said last time.
I like that. You can use a spatula or something. It doesn't even matter, right? Utensils.
Yeah.
So this drill basically is to help the connection of your trail arm to your body. So you're going to take your lead hand, you're going to cup the lead wrist like this, and with the fingers up. So you're going to tuck that up and back behind your trail elbow. And this is going to serve for like a brace when you go back. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to extension with the trail wrist.
45 degrees, like we said,
45 degrees back.
Pulling those fingers back.
Then you're going to get 45 degrees of external rotation while keeping your claw.
Got it.
And then from here, you can see my trail arm is slightly bent, right?
Slightly bent. Okay,
yes.
got it.
So as I go back, you're going to keep the cup in the lead wrist, and then the trail elbow goes like this. So it helps to keep the feeling of like what it feels like to stay connected in the backswing.
Got it. So
you can even continue to twist more with your trail palm like this to get your perfect, like that would be like max.
But you're using this to like keep
it's
that
the
pin.
connection. The connection of the trail elbow in front of your chest.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So that way the trail elbow doesn't pull in too far and it doesn't get out away from us too much. So you kind of, that's again why it's important you get your fingertips kind of up, more opposed to like here, because then you can slide a little.
No
but
sliding.
You want to get this, again, full extension, 45 degrees of that external, and then from there, just keep it. And then when you're coming down, you can keep it right here to like pre-impact.
Ooh.
And then if I was in the chair, it's like go down low. Like this.
Get low.
You can do an external circle. I used to do this all the time with students. It's like you can get to this pre-impact position and just keep going under and under more with keeping the 45 of the elbow.
What's the advantage
how
of that?
low it gives you the feeling of like the
like a
the centrifugal force from the top with the dropping of the club, like the
lasso.
button going out to the ball.
Got it.
Right. It's that same feeling of this. It's like the lower you go, just as a drill, it's good for the tricep muscles and everything that you need to condition for this, because it's not the easiest thing. Because the lower you go, if you keep everything cupped, it's like you get pretty in here, and then it's like that's where the trail arm goes from bent to straight. So it's a good like max lag drill for like the pump drill.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, go back to that same position you were saying with the. So it'd be cool if we created like a training aid that almost like wrapped around like your bicep here and like pulled your fingers back that way.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
To like your shoulders.
You know what I mean though? Like if it just connected like right here. And
as a unit.
As a unit.
Yeah.
Because it would keep your fingers like basically like a brace, basically. Because it's hard when you do this. Your fingers want to go this way.
Yeah, it's
got to keep them pulled back.
Well, it's a good drill for keeping lead wrist extension too. So
which we love.
Multi-purpose.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, what else we got?
So one is like understanding how to lock the trail arm in the backswing. I think it's good to understand again how to do this without a club like in the chair.
Yeah.
So we'll just go right arm or trail arm straight out away.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna go full extension. That same 45 we just had. Now from here,
so like palm is like kind of facing towards the sky.
So yeah, without moving it, if you go to 45 of extension, you can't get to 45 degrees of external. I mean, I don't know, maybe you can. It's close. Yeah, I'd say it's maybe 40 if you're lucky.
Yeah, right.
You have to have elongation to increase that, right? It has to like happen over time. But we'll just say we max it out, right? So, extension, boom. Now take the palm and push straight away until the arm locks like this. And then just keep it locked and finger straight away as long as you can, straight back like this. Holy smokes. Whoa. It is like, but this, if you learn to do this,
wow,
and you take your backswing with both of your hands and you push, you're going to be like, holy cow. So that's
that feeling.
Like, that's what
Charlie's feeling.
That's what all the pros, or the best pros in the world are doing the best.
Oh, that's what allows them to do what? Like keep their trail palm against their lead thumb
They're
knuckle.
locking the triangle and the connection between their claws, the hand to handle the club relationship, but the triangle as well, that unity to the body is like what locks in the most. Like it is locked. Right. So that's really, and they're stretching it to the max. Like they're not hinging too early. Like they're just getting all the pressures properly out there. And then on top of that too, it's building the foundation for them to be able to go from wide in the backswing to narrow in the downswing, and be able to support a nice, perfect shallow attack, proper path and face angles, to get the shot they want.
Yeah, because the trail arm's so important. Like, there's a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, because if people think, you shouldn't keep your arm locked, like it's got to be at 45. It's like true. But like when you go back, even if you go to like a half backswing, you just start adding just like a little bit of pull.
Like with that trail index finger pulling back.
Yeah. In the transition, there should always be an increase. When that happens, naturally your elbow always tucks with the radial in extension. Like it naturally gets the elbow to go
because
back
of the butt end of the club's driving out.
Right.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so from there, it's like then from, we can keep that, and then you just push, and then the trail arm goes from bed to straight.
It's like that.
It keeps it really simple.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, but you're feeling like consciously.
But you're conscious of the locking. Like it feels like kind of almost robotic, especially for someone who's never felt it before.
It's wild.
You think you're locked sometimes, but you look on video and you're like,
You've had me do it a lot.
But the only way that you can assure it is by doing a drill like this, where you're in the chair and you're like, okay, here, here, here. Here, it's like, oh, this is rigid. Like the top part.
How straight is that? Like, is that dead
like
straight?
This right here is as board straight as I can get my arm.
But you really don't want that, right?
Well, in the takeaway, I feel like it's very important.
Yeah.
And then as you go up, it should feel the same.
Got it.
But as you increase with your push-pull and your twist,
so this is
the trail arm is going to naturally bend, especially in the downswing, it's going to bend even more. Correct. So is it conscious, really? Not really.
Yeah.
Do we want to be locked and out here? Like, that's the thing is you got to make sure you're not swaying. That's where, the whole tilting move, making sure you're loading, drain the water and stuff.
Yep.
Those things help us stay centered. Because the other thing too is you can't lock your trail arm and go back any further than like really the takeaway and not sway.
Right.
If you're not staying on your lead side.
Got it. Right.
Because the trail shoulder, like for instance, if I go to my takeaway and it's locked, like let's just say like this. As I go back, if I don't get my trail shoulder to work up and back, lead shoulder under, and I go straight back, I'm just all of a sudden going to start staying level shouldered and slide. And I've seen that so often. You see those guys that get way over here and they're so off the ball at the top. It's just like, oh my gosh.
No. Yeah, that's why.
Lucky to hit the ball.
Right. That's why we like the draining the water.
Right. It's a simple way to understand how to support what we need.
When we did that video, people were saying that the draining the water was like a reverse pivot. I'm like, come on. Like,
well, to be honest, like the direction that the water was coming out of the ears at both parts was exactly the way that the energy should be flowing, like from the ears. Correct. Like it helped to understand the movement.
A reverse pivot, that water would have been draining way outside the lead foot. It would have been like left of where like a stack and tilt would be.
For sure. Yeah.
Like it was more of like a center rotation. Yeah. It's funny how people think like a center rotation is like a reverse pivot. It's like you don't have to get your sternum like over your like trail foot.
No,
like, don't
you
do
don't.
That.
You don't have. That's the old school idea.
Yeah, and that doesn't really work. Like you'll never see a tour player doing that.
Well, even in the old days too, the greats, like none of them did it really.
No, it was just
There's
like that
very
weird.
few that have ever done that.
It was like that weird fad that everybody went through in like golf instruction, like the early.
It was
90s.
more of like the.
Like,
it was almost like early 2000s too. Like some of the younger, more athletic guys were kind of like doing it more like locking, like trying to really pin the trail knee in and keep that locked in.
Right.
But I don't know. It doesn't make.
I remember Nick Watney. He used to do like a ton of that, and I was like, "What is this guy doing?" And we don't hear a lot from him anymore. But he had perfect claws, though. I loved his strong grip. He had a great
swing.
Oh, such a good strong grip. Shout out Nick Watney. Sorry for dogging your body movements, but your grip's money. But yeah, so the trail arm is something that's just not talked about enough. Everybody. You know what I see a lot too, and another rant. Sorry, these are just me a lot of rants, but that's just how this podcast goes. We're trying to fix golf, or golf instruction, really. Is all these coaches, and we've talked about this a little bit in podcasts before. They just take a ball and put it between the elbows and say, "Keep that pressure," and it's like, yeah, but that's not where you should be thinking about pushing.
So perfect that he mentions this. Yes. So another seed. Swing solution.
Maybe we should have saved this for a hot take.
No, this
maybe
is
we'll
good.
add it to hot takes at the end.
Okay. So if you go palm to palm like this.
Oh, okay. So
right.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically, if you keep the lead hand where it's at, take trail hand back and just go like this, like perfectly level, right?
Yes.
And then you can come right back. Oh. And you can go under, right? Just as like a drill.
Didn't we do this last week?
We did, but then when you go back, you can turn it more like this, bring it in. But it's like more of like just building on your topic. Like I'm just trying to throw it back.
I see.
Just so on that idea.
It's more of like
because like you asked about like, when people think about the ball, well, how do you get your elbows as tight together in the perfect way? This is the best way. How tight can you get your elbows with your palms to palms?
Oh, got it.
Then from there, it's like you go palm up, but keep that under pressure. The pressure comes from the under parts of the arm and the hand. So imagine like dissecting from your fingertips here, like in between your middle, like we'll just say from the middle finger, right? Like right up the arm.
Yeah.
It's like that right there is basically what we're trying to, utilize.
Right. That's why when we create the claws, we talk about so much with the claws is you want to really feel like those knuckle pads. And we talked about this at the beginning of pushing them away from your body, because that is what's creating the ultimate connection to the club, which is what locks your elbows together. So when you think about like pushing something together, you should almost imagine there being something like right here on your lead thumb and trying to push that pressure together, because that's where the clamp should be. Yeah, the clamp.
But then again, from the under parts of both hands, though, still it's like this feeling.
Yeah, the under.
Like so, even again, if we feel like we're separate, or we'll just go like palm to palm, right?
Right.
So it's like I'm trying to squeeze these together, keeping the inner parts. When I turn my grip like this, I want to feel like I'm really trying to snug these up like this as much as I can.
Try to get them to touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, really lock like that. And that's it, because if you don't have to rely on a ball, right, that's going to help big time. Just again, remember from like the middle finger down to your pinkies, right? That is the pressure to keep the elbows together. From there, the hands turn. That pressure, though, never leaves. At any point in the swing, it's like, because it creates like the distance between the elbows. Let's say it's approximately, like maybe 3 inches, roughly, something like that. That distance should really barely ever change, especially from like the takeaway to like the pre-impact and then post-impact.
Right.
Like those 3 points, the elbows are going to be pretty darn snug. When you go to the full top, it's going to bend just a little bit more, a little more separation, but the inner pressure doesn't change though at all.
See, that's why when we did that last week with the seated swing solutions, and we talked about this in the video we did today with the claws, is when you push your palms together and you push your knuckle pads together, that feeling of squishing that together and then getting, like we talked about with like the V's of like the fingers and the thumbs, that right there just gets that kind of elbow connection, because you can't push here in here without connecting your elbows.
Right.
Because the more you go this way, look what happens.
Right.
Palms are separating, knuckle pads are separating.
Chew. Yeah, we're not. We're not over here flicking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the grip's like, what the?
Well, that's what I was talking about when I would bring my arms together, right? Like once I got my claws, I'd bring my arms straight out in front of me, and I'd bring my elbows down on top of my chest.
Yeah.
Because that way I could keep my elbows tighter.
Right.
If I bring them down more and like kind of like go on the sides, it's like now the distance is almost twice as much.
That's your go-to move when you're in scrambles and you had a couple too many drinks.
Yeah, you get like pissed off because you're like, I should be playing better. Right. And then like all of a sudden it's like, lock and then smash the ground. And then it's like, oh wow, the ball's going better.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you like don't want to move as much because you've had a couple too many and you're like, whoa, like maybe I shouldn't be moving so much. Like got to stay centered.
Yes, right.
So by locking those elbows, I remember the best I ever seen you play was when we went to Florida. The first time I ever went to Florida with you to visit your dad, and man, that was like the most I've ever seen you like preset. Nuts. It's the most I've ever seen you like at the setup. You were just pushing so hard, like because we talked about this in the episode today, where if you at your setup, you imagine like a circle just outside like your trail foot, that 5 inches. That's where you're trying to push your palms to. Mm-hmm. That was what you were doing that day.
Yeah, I would literally like.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
I would take the club back, and my first cue was I would go back. I was over the golf ball.
I got footage of that. I'll pull that up on.
We do have
for
video.
For a clip. I'll pull it up.
So I would lock my trail arm like that, get that perfect 45 with the trail wrist.
Where are you pushing here? Let the audience know.
You know, I'm pushing with the knuckle pads. We start with the pinky. It goes all the way here to in between the index finger and the thumb.
On the butt end of the club. Love it.
Yes.
And then trail palm, where you pushing?
And then trail palm goes to lead thumb knuckle, as we know. Boom. Right? That's the clamp. And then also the trail index pad is also pushing against the trail side of the club as well, against that lead. I mean, all the pads are pushing against each other.
Got it.
Right. Which would make sense of why we don't want the fingers like out here separated too much, because then it's like more force away. We want it like tighter.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So we got the palm pad, and then from there it's like then the index pad, also very important that I get it on that trail underside part of the club like this. So I'm pushing against the side of the handle.
Yes.
And then I got the trail end pinch like that. So again, I'd set that. So I'm pushing down, out, and away, getting my 45 of extension with my 45 of twist. So I would go back to this point once over the ball, then go back to setup very, very, very slow.
Very slow.
And then I would basically start my backswing right away, and I'd go slow back to that takeaway, give it just a split second pause, make sure I had the lock, and I'd go up to the top, and I'd pause for another like split second, and then I would just try to leave the club at post impact with that feeling of the trail arm, you know, going from bench straight, trail wrist staying cup, and I would just stop with locked elbows at post impact.
It was unbelievable.
I hit a 3-iron off like a
down slope
of 35-degree down slope off of like this nasty Bermuda, and I told him
it was number 9. I remember.
It was the par 5. I told him, I was like, I bet you I can hit a perfect push draw off this lie. And if you go right, you're like in a 100-foot down ravine, like, terrible, or whatever. And I literally hit this perfect push draw, like 225 yards, like right at the pin. And I was just like, what the hell?
Yeah, that was really impressive. But that was the best I've ever seen you play, because you just weren't moving. Like you were just.
Yeah, I was so focused in on getting my pressures right that it like allowed me to go so slow. Mm-hmm. And then it was just amazing how far I hit it. But it was the key was I never pressure. Let go. I knew where my destination was though too, because if I just went back locked like that and I didn't know really where I was going, then just like started really trying to get my body going or something, it would have not been near as good.
Right.
But it was funny. Remember how then the second round we went and played? That was the morning round. And then like I took this locked thing and we went and played this like kind of dump course.
Swiss fairways?
Yeah. But like I shot. I
don't think it's open anymore.
I think I had like 4 or 5 birdies in the back 9. I got
your
into this
elbows
roll.
were so locked.
And then that's when we did the alligator arms with putting, which alligator arms are coming with putting, by the way.
Alligator arms.
One of our content videos at the studio.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just put like a putting green or something in at the studio.
We can just do it under Matt thing. But yeah, we'll get like a little putting strip or something.
We have to.
But the key is it doesn't matter so much. I mean, just seeing the ball roll 5 feet straight properly,
it's this.
But seeing what's going on here with the arms and hands and like the V's and everything, we'll teach you about alligator elbows. Like it's literally the key.
That
like
was
alligator
so funny.
arms. Is it? And I had like a 40-foot putt or something, and I was like, "This is it!" And I just step up and grip the putter like this and nail it. It was like
it was perfect.
It was pretty cool.
So yeah, that was I'll have to pull up some footage from that because that was a really fun trip.
It was the beginning of the claw. Honestly, like that's
Absolutely.
when we really started.
That's when we realized
figuring out this is like something cool.
We're doing this
and big. Like yeah,
because we've already we'd seen it. We've taught a lot of lessons. Like
we were experiencing it though, like ourselves. Actually,
that's why we always had so much fun golfing because it was like we got to practice
our methods our method.
And like oh my gosh, like this is like actually the secret. I remember we were playing golf like crazy.
Oh yeah.
And yeah,
now, it's fun.
Now we're just more into like, okay, we want to build this company.
We got to figure it out.
Like,
now we got to get it out to
now
everybody.
We got to help everybody else.
It's like Santa Claus, you know, kind of like
right, exactly.
We've been making the presents all year, but it's been years, and now we're about to ready to give the presents.
Before we were just kind of like keeping it for ourselves, like this is the secret. Now it's like, oh wait, like we should probably give the secret to like everybody. So that's why we created this. So you see this like a lot.
Right.
We talk about this like in our podcast and stuff. So yeah, this is eventually going to be on everybody's golf club.
Our strips, yeah,
our strips are the big key. So that's, I mean, you've seen us do this demo before, where we're really just, and this is what we talk about a lot when we talk about the connection to the club, is just really making sure that you got that proper like connection. And then once you get that proper connection,
there's the ring.
You hear the auditory feedback. Now this isn't squeezing, like I'm pushing against those things. But if I let off just a little bit, boom. And then back to it. So that's so important. That's only one little piece though. Like this smart grip is gonna like
that just ensures the connection, but then maintaining that connection while doing the movements, which I'll be censored too. That's gonna be our key training aid.
You can't just put your hands on the steering wheel. You got to steer the car.
That's right. While maintaining that tautness.
Yeah, the tautness is so key. And you know, I think we're gonna skip plain and simple today with the pros. We're just gonna go into hot takes because I feel like we're kind of feeling pretty feisty and fired up, and we're gonna spice it up even a little bit more. Hot takes time. I want to talk about how the body doesn't start the takeaway. Like that's a hot take because you see all these. The big thing I feel like the reason that it happens is tour players have such a good connection to their golf club, so they don't have to maybe be as conscious of what their hands are doing. So then they're like, oh, I'm just using my body to rotate. And then everybody else is like, oh, cool. That's what I'm going to use. It's like, yeah, but you don't have that connection. So you don't have the like opportunity to like just focus on your body because you can't create that proper pivot point like we talk about from the takeaway to the top because they don't have the claws and they don't have that connection to the club. So that is very, very important. So yeah, hot take, the takeaway doesn't start with your body. It starts with your hands and arms. Like stop talking about just body.
Yeah. So basically the idea with the takeaway is that, and well, in our opinion too, that if you have, let's just say a neutral to strong grip, we do recommend you have a little bit of a pre-close and even maybe a bit of a pre-load of weight left, right? Or lead on lead side, right? So if you already do that, you already pre-rotated. Like you don't have to, when you look at how much your body actually has to physically rotate in the backswing, like for a proper amount to just support what the claws and the club need to do. It's so minimal.
It's very minimal.
I would say again, it's like 30%, maybe 20 or 10.
And
right?
those claws are gonna move you.
Well, that's the thing.
That's
people
what
don't realize that the unit of the swing triangle, right?
Yes,
like
let's talk about
that's
that.
it, right?
Yeah.
So when we think about when you go back and like you properly, lever your club, like we'll talk about to the take, we get the proper stretch. So when you work the handle straight back, right, to get the width, what's that going to do with your, arms and shoulders? Is my lead shoulder working relative to my trail shoulder at all different?
No, it's just like working down a little bit.
Well, if you think about the angle, I've almost like turned probably 40 degrees.
Oh, because of like the hand. Okay. I see
just because of this, like my shoulders are moving. Like if I had a sensor right here in my sternum, right? It's like that's 30, 40 degrees of rotation.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Doesn't look like it.
Right.
See, and that's what's an illusion in the golf swing is people see this where the club's moving and they think they have to make this gigantic, rotated move like this in the back and coming through and all this crazy stuff. But really, it's just work the handle back like that. If you twist now, all of a sudden, look what the forearm's doing. Is this lead shoulder moving at all? Yes, rotator cuff, lead forearm. Same with the trail.
Because of this.
Yes, right here. This unit here is moving all that. What's going to happen when you do this hand arm move and the shoulders move? It's going to go to your core. Maybe the people out there talking about swinging with your ribs and stuff, that maybe go to you. But
what's going on with that? Like we got to.
They're thinking about 1 point, but it's fine, whatever. And then it goes down to the hips, and then the knees, and then the feet. Right, but that's the idea: is that to twist yourself properly in the ground, get the connection. To stretch straight back, get your proper, set back, get the club parallel to the ground, get your parameters. Let's say, get your, parameters for the takeaway. And then from there, as you go back, if you consistently keep pushing, right, that's going to keep you on the lead side. You're naturally going to keep tilting. And then from there, as you keep twisting, hinging, as the club comes back at you, naturally it's going to give you a little bit more rotation. People don't...
Because the momentum of the club head, right?
Correct, because the club head's coming back at you. You're like pushing away on the handle, club head's coming back. And what people don't also realize is that the wider your swing is, basically in general, the more you're going to turn in a shorter amount of time in the backswing. So the wider your swing, then naturally you're going to turn more. Subconsciously.
Because your right arm is like so locked?
Because it's this relationship that I'm telling you about.
Oh, got it. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Basically, one thing that I've realized a long time ago is that the idea of like a level rotation with your shoulders is so non-effective when it comes to like how much you're turning relative to the golf, like how much you need for like a 90-degree turn, right? You can do that in your takeaway pretty much if you have level shoulders. But if you're in tilt, it's just like this little bit of a rocking move, and all of a sudden it's like there's 90 degrees. Like it does not take much at all.
Right.
So that's pretty much what we're trying to say is just it's more about controlling the locking of the trail arm, pushing, properly, twisting, getting our hinge, perfect your takeaway, get to the top. And if we get that right, the shoulders and hips and everything are going to be wound up. And then from there, it's like we just start with activating the lead ankle, the inner part of the trail ankle, and then it goes knees, hips. And then from there, it's like those are pulling the claws and the club back down in the triangle. And then from there, it's like we allow that trail arm, to go from bend straight.
Correct.
Trail wrist stays cup. Lead wrist does what it does. With just pushing, we'll just say.
Right.
And then we have the finish from there.
But the claws, the handle, and the club
this is constant.
They move you.
Yes, this is going to move you.
You don't move them. They move you.
Right.
Like your body and everything that it's doing is
the control unit is right here. It's like everyone that's controlling like what's going on, they're like in this little office right here. And they're like, Houston, we have a major problem.
Man. It's like, but the problem is that a lot of these people that are trying to improve their golf games, they don't have the proper connection to that to begin with.
That's the problem. If you don't have the grip right, it's just the chance of you getting anything right is so slim to none. That's why you hit maybe 2 or 3 shots in a round of golf that you're like, oh, that's cool. And that keeps you intrigued enough thinking, oh, there might be hope. But it could be a very long road.
That's one of the reasons we created that.
It's exactly why. Because it's the only way
to just get people connected to the club right to begin with.
And to monitor it without us having to do it.
Yes.
Because we only are 2 people.
It's amazing what you can do for your golf game. If you actually just spend time working on your grip.
It's simple.
It can fix 10 things.
And it honestly, people just,
it's a 10 for 1 special.
It was funny because
Jeez.
When I first started teaching golf, I would always go through the classic, grip drills. Never understood the claws fully, but I understood pinches and stuff like that. And V's of direction of V's, but
it's better than most.
Right. But the weird thing is that I'd have a 10 lesson package that I would sell.
Yeah.
And so it'd be I would just work on that grip in the very first lesson, and then I would kind of just skim over it, going forward, and I just start working on the backswing and lag and release and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, why aren't they doing this right after into lesson 6, 7, and you're like,
they can't.
Their grip sucks. They're not doing they're not keeping it
Lobster
together.
claws.
It's like, oh, okay, now we got to get that. And then all of a sudden, all the things you worked on actually were getting way better, but
your
until we got the grip, though, the claws, if the lobsters are still it's just come on, man.
Yeah, the handlers fending off the lobsters. Where did these come from?
Exactly. They're in our one little. We'll have to show that that picture of Clothori where there's little lobsters.
Yes,
they're on the floor of the ocean when we have
that's right.
We have the dungeon.
Oh yeah, the crazy dungeon. Yeah. We'll have to show that. It's true. Those are lobsters, aren't they?
Yeah, they got little pitchforks or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot those were lobsters.
It's an awesome picture.
Oh, that's actually really good. I'll pull that up. But get rid of your lobster claws. Get the proper connection to the club.
That's right.
Let the hands start. And it's funny, everybody thinks if the hands start back, then the handle is going to go out too much.
It's they're thinking of this idea of the rolling and all this stuff. It's no. It's understand what we mean by there's certain hand movements that actually create this connection that you don't have to, again, it's just the idea of putting the club here and trying to hold it and go like this. It's it's pretty much the same thing, but we're actually understanding how we're doing it through here. It's not just me holding down the club using no hand movement at all. It's that's not what we need to do.
That's why we like the small
something
club.
Has to always be happening.
That's why we like the small club, because it's that connection. It's very you're close to the club. It's when you're the club's a little longer, it's like, it's a little harder to get that understanding and relationship. But when you have the small club, it's like, well, hello there. Like,
yeah, a little easier to get the direct relationship.
Yeah, you get a direct relationship. And yeah, that's the big key.
Right.
What's another thing that just isn't really being talked about enough in golf instruction that we saw a lot when we were like teaching?
Well, one thing that was big, and we have kind of mentioned this before, was understanding forward shaft lane.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like one of the only advocates that was really big about forward shaft lane with all clubs in the beginning. Forward shaft lane
needs to be talked about more.
Absolutely. Because I could take somebody that's like an average 100 shooter who hits their driver like 220 with a big slice, you know, and in literally an hour, I could turn their entire bag into draws and gain 15 to 20 yards typically on every club, just by getting their ball position right, their grip right, the handle set forward, and just like a little pre-close and like leaning forward with their weight, and be like, now just swing in a little and swing out. And it's like, oh, wow, all of a sudden it's like, now I'm making forward contact. Like it was the simplest thing, and you do it honestly in like 5-10 minutes, but it's not hard, but it's just understanding like what those allow you to do. Most people think, oh, if you get the handle forward, like you're just going to dig too much or the ball's not going to go off the ground. No, that's not true at all. Right. Especially if you have the strong grip. It goes a little bit better with the strong grip because like with a weak grip, the lead wrist is, of course, more on lead side of the club. When you use flexion, you're naturally creating a lot of, in a sense, shaft lean.
Yeah.
So you're almost doing it more with your wrist.
You're de-lofting it already.
Here you're an extension. So when you go back like this, right, you're not actually creating like the shaft goes back, but it's in a different way because of the unity with the lead wrist. So that's why with the strong grip, we typically will want to forward press a little bit more at the setup.
Correct. Because we
want the angle to be able to go back where we can get that good, like the twist properly to where we can get the toe, back. But again, the other thing is, I will say that the students that I taught had the best short games of like anybody that I've seen because of the forward shaft lane. I mean, we talked about thumping the trailing edge. Yes. If you understand how to thump the trailing edge of the golf club face, which is by basically allowing the club to, in a sense, if you think about from a straight up standpoint here, this is a clockwise club rotation. Yes. Right? So as I take the club back, we're pushing, right? So we start back with pushing and just an incremental twist. I mean, if you have a shot where you have to take the club back this far, 6 inches, right? There should still be a little bit of twist here. And then when you go to push down and out, forward with the trail wrist, it's like that's still going to allow you to get the heel to lead. You're thumping the trailing edge. And then because of the strong grip, the forward shaft lane, you just basically keep the face grooves at the sky and you'll hit the best chips and pitch shots with the most spin you've ever seen. And like I said, my students always, opposed to all the other instructors that I've really ever known, had the best short games. Right. Like when they would play against each other. Yeah. Because it was just like most guys are using their body more. Right. And they're trying to rotate. And it's like my students would just preset. It's so
bad to get forward shaft lanes. Like, it's okay.
It's a huge distance booster too. Like you have no idea. If you get the handle way forward, put the ball in the middle of your stance, lean your weight left a little bit, go kind of low and a little bit inside, and then punch down the line, keeping the grooves at the sky, and you will hit some of the best pitch shots you can possibly hit. True. Because the club, that's really with a 56-degree wedge especially, right? Like if you just do those dynamics and you do that swing, like any pro would probably tell you, yeah, it totally works. Right. But I don't know why more people don't do more of the punch. Like Zach Johnson's idea with the wedge game is, for the most part, you don't see it much with that punching kind of action, but it needs to come back.
Yeah, I agree. It needs to come back.
JT does a great job with his control, though. He does like that rehinge little move I've seen in the match.
It's so
like
good.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, he keeps his grip together better than anybody on the tour.
Because he comes to that little pause at the top too. Just you can see the claws are just like, we're here,
they're ready.
They're ready.
Poor Rory, he's got like the perfect grip, and his claws are just like, why are you not using us properly?
Well, it's the feet looking up at him saying, hey, why are we doing so much? Just calm that down.
No, it's like, why is the right elbow like pulling behind so much, and why am I like not using the proper like push pull and the takeaway?
Because he's turning too much back and through.
Yeah, he's just like,
he doesn't need to turn. He just needs to just stop moving his feet, preload a little more.
Stop moving in general.
Do what DJ did.
Yeah,
right.
True,
that's really all he is. Because they hit the ball about the same.
Right.
So it's like that's what you need for control.
Yeah,
stay flat-footed.
Right.
You can hit a sand wedge probably 125 yards, not moving your feet.
And you know what's crazy is that like, I'm pretty sure, I might get dogged for this, but I think Rory's #1 player in the world right now. I probably should know that.
He is, though.
He is. Okay, good.
Yeah.
But and here we are like saying that he could still be getting better.
Well, because
he's the #1 player in the world, and he could be getting better. Everybody at home, you could be getting better.
Yeah, I mean, we all can be better,
Like,
but we
can-
do like this. What we're talking about though
is real.
is really like it's. If you think about, is there ever like a goal line? Like I get to this point where I'm like, okay, like I've reached my full potential. Like where do we go now?
Correct.
The idea is that you master basically like your hand to hand to club relationship for all clubs, right? We understand that from putting. I mean, you know, we're talking everything, right?
Yep.
And then from there, it's just more about how many repetitions you want to do to just keep perfecting it and perfecting it. So there is though a goal, like there is an end goal, right? But it's like getting to that plateau where it's like, you know, if like for most people, like I would say in the world, if they could consistently break 80, they're happy. Then there's that next tier. Or like if I could always break 75,
I think break 90
happy.
people would be happy.
Well, of course. I'm just saying, like, when you think about it, though, when it breaks it down, you know, it's like if certain people can get to a level of play where they're like, you know, I'm content. And then if I can keep getting a little better, if I put more time into it, then I'm all about this. Yeah. But it won't deteriorate as much either because of the way that we're teaching you. Correct. And we're going to be more readily available all the time because it's going to be like we're sitting there holding your hand because we've got our smart AI coach club.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's the big key is it's got to be guided. Like you have to have somebody holding your hand through the process of learning golf. Okay. Another hot take. I don't think that the club face has to match the spine angle as much as people think it has to. In the takeaway.
Okay.
That's why I like the strong grip.
Sure.
Because I think that for the average person, because they struggle so much with actually letting the club do the work, I think when I see a lot, and I actually follow this girl on TikTok and I watch her swing. I want to say something so bad, but she has a coach. But I really just want to chime in and be like, you have a strong grip, but you have to stop like trying to point the face down towards the ground. Like let it like push and twist and use that strong grip properly because you're not using it properly. You're turning that face down. Now you're like taking your hands that were wound up on the side of the handle good and winding the other direction. They don't want to go that way.
Right.
They want to go this way.
Yeah.
Let them go that way. It's okay to have the toe up at the takeaway. It is.
Absolutely. Look at Brian Harmon.
Yeah.
The lefty.
But it's just not talked about enough. It drives me crazy. Like all these people are like, "Oh, your face is too open."
So here's the thing, though.
Most of a weak grip, I know, but still.
Here's the idea. I feel like I believe that the face angle should perfectly match the spine for a neutral grip.
Yes. Okay. Agreed.
So if I go to a weak grip, the face when I go back, is this angle matching my spine? Yes, but the dynamic loft of the club face is not necessarily. It's more delofted than my body is bent forward in a sense, but the angle will look like it from this angle, right? And then when we go to a strong grip, we want the club face to be more toe up, right? Because of, again, the natural gear effect. If we go here, then in the downswing, we have more of an underneath move we have to do to be able to get back to this, because with a strong grip especially, we have to make sure that we're coming back into impact with the keeping the cup, basically, right? And then the lead wrist is going to stay cupped while the lead wrist goes into that flat position, right, to keep the heel leading the toe.
And it's not going into that flat position until the handle has reached a point where it's in front of the ball.
It's hitting the golf. Yeah, well, it's actually when it's hitting the ground technically.
Yes.
Right.
Because everybody thinks like, oh, you're
pinky pad's hitting the ground first with the handle.
Right.
And then it goes from pinky pad and it just goes up through the lead hand, and then it goes down through the trail hand with how it segments through each hook.
That's another thing we see a lot in the comments where people are like, oh, you're like teaching people to flip. It's like, no, the handle is not, the club is not passing the handle before it gets to the ball.
Absolutely
not. How would you hit the ground? How would you hit the ball and then the ground?
Right.
Like it's not possible.
Right.
So we're making ball first contact. So we're getting the handle to lead, then the club is being delivered, then it stops, and then the club releases. It has to. Like we said in the last episode, it has to unpivot.
Right. And what we're trying to say, like in a simple way, is if this was like a little roller coaster, and we've got the front cart here, and here's the back cart, and we're at pre-impact, right? It's like, and here's like the golf ball.
Yeah.
It's like the front few carts, have to get ahead of the ball.
Correct.
And then from there, it's like, now when we think about like the pads, we start with the pinky pad, and it's like, then it's applied down. Then it goes to the ring finger, middle finger, index finger, the pinch with the lead thumb. Then it goes trail index, trail ring, trail middle, trail index, trail pinch. But it's just like the roller coaster. So it's like this flat surface here, which is like, again, the ball. It's like we're just ahead, and it's like we're slamming them into the wall. Boom. Yeah. And then from there, then it's like, then the cart passes eventually.
Correct.
But that's not until after the club has left the ground.
Correct. It has to pass it. You can't just like have your roller coaster like woo,
or just like, or try to physically snap it like the cart.
That won't work either.
Yeah, if you slingshot the tail ahead of the like
there
lead
goes
cart,
that cart.
it's like these guys are flying this way.
Yeah, because like the gear effect of how that works is like not good. But
right.
Yeah, I feel like when people get to the takeaway, it's like you can be toe up. Like I just want to tell that girl in her comments, like you have such a good strong grip. It's really good, but you have to like let it rotate a little bit. You're not utilizing the strong grip because when people get that face pointed down, that trail arm gets so on top that for the average person, they just can't get that trail arm to work properly.
Or even
from that position.
Even if it gets underneath,
you know what I mean, though?
Well, even if they get underneath though, like it gets on the side properly, there's still a change in direction underneath.
Yeah,
that's still very difficult to control, especially with short game, like we've talked many times.
Right.
If you're more shut in the takeaway, then open it in a certain sense. Ugh. Yeah, it's like you're gonna have problems. So
correct.
That's why we recommend just a little bit of twist. It's incremental,
just a little bit.
Right. We'll understand like if we start at this point from here to point B, we have to go to here. Let's say if I don't even move the club face, like I just go from here to here. Okay, how much rotation am I gonna do for a strong grip? There.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's like now I start off here. And it's like incrementally do that.
Right.
Perfect
You're
blend.
not rolling.
Yeah, I'm not going. Yeah. It's like incremental. So that's why we like to break the swing down into.
Yes.
Which we're gonna do this in our archive more of like the different zones of the swing. Like zones.
Exactly.
Like we have 5, but each zone is broken down into like 4 segments.
Correct.
So it's like click, 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 click. Seeing every point of the road map.
It's like the roller coaster. Like
that's right.
Tick, 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 tick. Boom.
Yeah. Once you get to that pause at the top of the hill, which is like at each pivot point, it'll dictate how your cart's gonna fly to the next checkpoint.
Correct. Exactly.
That'll be a wild ride eventually. Really if we get that at like Disney, that'd be sweet, cool. Right?
But yeah, I just feel like there's just not enough talk being talked about with face rotation. Like it's okay to rotate the face.
Yes.
Let it rotate.
Has to be supported with pushing.
Yes. It has to be supported with pushing and radial and everything that we're talking about. Yeah, I like that roller coaster thing, like you said, with the pinky and the thumb.
Kind of makes sense more too, yeah.
Everything's like sequential.
But the first two get ahead. Before it's not like the caboose is passing.
It's almost like they have to like click into their spot, and then it's like,
and then it's like against that,
boom, and then it like swings through. But it's like they have to like click in. It's almost like with the pump drill. We talk about this where it's like you're pumping to that lead thigh, like the middle of the lead thigh. It's like you click the handle in there, and then it like clicks into like a support system, and then it's just boom, and then that's what gets the club to release. But I like the idea of it like clicking into something and then releasing the club head from there. Because it'd be like a good thing, like a good goal for you. Like get to the top and then try to get the handle to like click into its support system to then let the club head release
then the club
properly.
Get the gear effect.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We
could do something like that. That'd actually be really cool.
We have lots of good things coming.
Oh, just wait till you see the backpack. Wait till you see everything that we did today.
There's a lot more coming.
Yeah, we're going to do the claw ball. We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
We just got to make some modifications because we made him a little too small.
Yeah.
But it's going to actually be our like little Dimples the golf ball character.
And his arms are going to be hanging onto your arms. So it's like you're hanging onto him.
We just want to help. You know that. That's why we're doing everything that we're doing. That's why we're sitting up here ranting for over an hour, talking about the golf swing. We just want to help. Hopefully this helps you. Hopefully we're kind of getting through to everybody. We keep saying the same stuff, but it's because it's all that matters.
That's right.
So links are in the bio. In the bottom, we got all of our Discord. Get your free lesson. We got some hats left. We got some cool art coming out. Yeah. I'm Ethan.
I'm Jonathan.
Thanks for watching.
Yep. Thanks.